KFC's fluorescent sign cast a soft glow across the parking lot of Pinewood's quiet main street. In a town where excitement usually meant seasonal fairs and high school football games, the fast food restaurant served as both a quick meal stop and an unofficial community hub. For Elijah Davis, pulling into the lot that sweltering afternoon, it was just another tired Tuesday, until it wasn't. Sweat darkened the collar of his work shirt as he eased his truck into a parking space. 10 hours of hauling equipment and managing contract work had left every muscle aching. The promise of crispy chicken and warm biscuits beckoned, a small comfort before heading home to his wife Maya and their 4-year-old daughter, Zoe. The restaurant's air conditioning hit him like a blessing. Behind the counter, a young employee named Jalen worked with quiet efficiency, his movement suggesting the kind of grace that comes from genuine care rather than corporate training. He couldn't have been more than 20, but there was something in his eyes that spoke of an old soul. "Welcome to KFC," Jalen said, a gentle smile lifting the corners of his mouth. "What can I get you today?" Elijah barely needed to glance at the menu. 3-piece meal, please, and could I get an extra biscuit? No problem at all. Jalen's fingers moved across the screen with practiced ease. As Elijah handed over his $20 bill, he noticed the methodical way Jalen handled each task, deliberate, almost reverent. It was unusual in fast food, where speed typically trumped ceremony. The observation flickered through his mind and disappeared, replaced by the bone-deep exhaustion that had become his constant companion. Back in his truck, Elijah set the paper bag on the passenger seat. Something felt off. Not wrong exactly, but different enough to catch his attention. He blamed it on fatigue at first, but the sensation persisted. With a slight frown, he opened the bag to check his order. His heart stopped. Nestled beside the food container was a stack of cash, folded carefully with a note on top. His hands trembled as he read the message in neat handwriting. "If you found this, it's meant for you. Have faith." For several long moments, Elijah sat frozen, the note growing damp in his grip. The money, there had to be hundreds, seemed to burn through the bag. His mind raced through possibilities, a mistake, a trap, a test. The weight of the cash felt equal parts blessing and burden. Without allowing himself to think further, he grabbed the bag and headed back inside. Jalen looked up, unsurprised but cautious, as Elijah approached the counter. "Sir, is everything all right?" Elijah lowered his voice. "I think there's been a mistake." He tilted the bag just enough to reveal its contents. Understanding flickered across Jalen's features. "Let's talk over here," he said, gesturing toward a quiet corner of the dining room. Away from curious ears, Jalen's professional demeanor softened. "It wasn't a mistake," he said simply. "I've been doing this for a while now, helping where I can, when I can." "But why?" Elijah's voice cracked. "You don't know anything about me." Jalen's gaze drifted to the window, where the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in shades of amber. "I know enough. I know what it's like to watch someone you love work themselves to exhaustion. My mom did it for years, 3 jobs, barely sleeping, just to keep us afloat." He turned back to Elijah. "I know the look of someone carrying more than they should have to." Elijah's chest tightened. He thought of Maya's worried frown as she juggled bills, of Zoe's birthday coming up, of the repairs their aging house desperately needed. Still, pride warred with necessity. "I can't accept this. It's too much." "Sometimes," Jalen said, pulling out a small card, "we have to learn to accept help so we can better give it later." He pressed the card into Elijah's hand. "My number's on there. If you ever need anything, even just to talk, call me." The card felt impossibly heavy for something so light. Elijah studied Jalen's face, searching for any hint of ulterior motive, but found only sincere compassion. "I don't know how to thank you. Live your life, help others when you can. That's all the thanks I need." The drive home took on a dreamlike quality. Streetlights blurred past as Elijah's mind replayed the encounter. He thought about chance and kindness, about struggle and pride, about the strange ways hope sometimes appeared. Maya was waiting up when he arrived, worry lines etched around her eyes. They sat at their small kitchen table as he recounted the story, her expressions shifting from disbelief to shock to tearful gratitude as they counted the money together, enough to catch up on rent and still have some breathing room. "I can't believe someone would do this," Maya whispered, her hand finding his across the table. For strangers. He said something about paying it forward, Elijah replied, the phrase taking on new meaning as he spoke it. Over the following months, they did exactly that. They started small, helping a neighbor with grocery money, anonymously paying for a family's meal at the diner, contributing to the local food bank. Each act of kindness felt like honoring Jalen's trust in them. The money eventually ran out, but the habit of helping didn't. Elijah took on mentoring young contractors. Maya started a community garden where neighbors could share fresh vegetables. They discovered that giving, even in small ways, filled something in them they hadn't known was empty. One crisp autumn evening, Elijah spotted Jalen sitting alone on a park bench, watching children play on the nearby playground. He hesitated only briefly before approaching. "Mind if I join you?" Jalen smiled in recognition, gesturing to the empty space beside him. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "You know," Elijah finally said, "I've been wanting to ask, how did you know, that day at KFC, how did you know we needed help?" Jalen considered the question. "I didn't, not really, but I believe in paying attention to the small things, the way someone carries themselves, the look in their eyes. Sometimes you just feel a connection, a moment where you can make a difference." He paused. "I've heard about what you and Maya have been doing in the community." Elijah nodded, thinking of the garden now flourishing behind their house, of the young apprentice learning the trade under his guidance, of the neighbors who had become like family. "You showed us it was possible to make a difference. Even when you think you have nothing to give, there's always something." As they parted ways, Elijah watched Jalen walk toward Main Street, his KFC uniform visible under his jacket. The young man who had changed their lives with a simple act of kindness was still working his regular shifts, still quietly helping others, still believing in the power of small gestures to transform lives. Looking up at the evening star emerging in the darkening sky, Elijah thought about how change ripples outward, touching lives in unexpected ways. One person's compassion had sparked a chain reaction of kindness that continued to spread through their small town. In Pinewood, where excitement once meant seasonal fairs and football games, it now meant something more, a community discovering its capacity for generosity, one small act at a time.